President has made his way off of Air Force One and will now speak to a diverse crowd of reporters.
Put out pretty soon. I mean, we'll see. It's right now a little bit in progress, but pretty far along. It gets us everything we needed to get.
Relentlessly his pants, which, if I'm Trump or Brendan Carr, probably lands in the fail category.
Oh my god, the president is doing things no other president has done before. I love him.
South Park just humiliated Trump's Greenland push in season 29. And it was a public execution disguised as comedy. The episode catches Trump mid-meltdown and strips the fantasy bare, turning his obsession with Greenland into a cold, brutal joke that collapses under its own absurdity. This is South Park showing what happens when power runs out and only noise is left.
We have to have it. They have to have this done. They can't protect it. Denmark, they're wonderful people. And I know the leaders are very good people, but they don't even go there.
Trump is already spiraling before South Park even shows up. He's mid-rant, bouncing from tariffs to windmills to how ice is apparently the most important resource on Earth. Greenland slips out of his mouth like a glitch, not a plan. It's not a strategy, it's a reflex. Words are falling out faster than thoughts can catch them, and that's exactly when South Park drops season 29. Not to parody him gently, but to cut him open while he's still yelling.
The FCC guy must have shitty ankles.
That's the key difference here. This isn't South Park joking about Trump. This is South Park treating him like a public malfunction. The episode lands right at peak meltdown, when Trump can't finish a sentence without starting 3 more. Greenland becomes the perfect symbol because it's big, cold, distant, and misunderstood. Just like the things he loves to talk about most. He doesn't want Greenland because of geopolitics. He wants it because it exists, and he doesn't own it. That's the obsession. Ownership without understanding. Control without clarity.
If the goal of Trump and Brendan Carr was to quash dissent, I don't think they're accomplishing their goal.
South Park locks onto that immediately. Trump's Greenland fixation is framed as a brain loop, big, empty, cold, mind. That's it. No deeper logic, no second layer. It's toddler reasoning dressed up as world policy. And the show doesn't need to exaggerate much because the real version already sounds fake. In Trump's world, countries aren't sovereign nations. They're properties with flags. You don't negotiate with them. You acquire them. You don't respect borders. You redraw them like zoning lines.
And now we can officially add to that list that South Park has portrayed Donald Trump as having impregnated the devil.
So South Park turns maps into coloring books and diplomacy into vibes. Strategy is reduced to confidence. Confidence is reduced to volume. And volume replaces thinking entirely. The joke lands hardest when Cartman, of all people, understands the basic rule that Greenland belongs to Denmark. That's not just a gag, that's an insult with teeth. When the worst kid in South Park understands international law better than the former president, the message is clear. This isn't bold leadership, it's ignorance with a microphone.
Over here, Mr. President, how did the tariff meetings go?
They went great, buddy.
Season 29's Trump isn't portrayed as a mastermind or a villain. He's portrayed as broken software, a looping algorithm trained on applause, praise, and cable news chyrons. He talks in half sentences that cancel each other out. He contradicts himself before anyone else gets the chance. One moment Greenland is essential for national security, the next it's about ice being very clean, then suddenly it's Biden's fault. The logic doesn't move forward, it spins.
Your wife Melania has been staying in New York and away from the White House.
That's right.
That's the brutal part. South Park isn't accusing him of lying. It's suggesting something worse, that he no longer knows what he's saying. Lies imply intent. This feels like noise, like a system overheating and dumping random outputs. He's not steering the conversation. He's chasing it, always one sentence behind his own mouth.
Fox News has just received confirmation that the unborn child of Satan and President Trump has decided to take the easy way out and end its own life.
Then comes the Greenland pitch scene, and it's almost uncomfortable to watch because of how familiar it feels. Trump storms into a town hall with absolute confidence and zero substance. He's got a plan, he says. A beautiful plan. The best plan. And then the questions start. Why Greenland? How would this work? What's the benefit? Every why hits him like a system error. He can't answer, so he pivots. Crowd size. Election fraud. Biden. Anything but the question.
If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple. Just like dominoes, one by one, they'll go down.
South Park lets the silence do the work. The room doesn't boo, they don't cheer, they just stare. That stare is devastating. It's the sound of power draining out of the room. When Randy Marsh finally speaks and calls it the dumbest business pitch he's ever heard, it lands because Randy once tried to sell weed to China. This isn't partisan mockery. This is South Park saying, we've seen stupid before. This is different.
Satan, why are you so sad?
What makes the episode hit harder is how little it relies on exaggeration. Trump's speech patterns are already surreal. His real-world fixation on Greenland was real. The confusion was real. The refusal to explain was real. South Park just tightens the frame and removes the noise. And when you strip away the branding, the slogans, the volume, what's left is emptiness.
I wish to be gone from this place.
Greenland itself barely reacts in the episode, and that's intentional. It doesn't need to. It exists beyond Trump's reach, beyond his rhetoric, beyond his ego. Nature doesn't respond to tantrums. Geography doesn't care about confidence. You can't bully ice into signing a deal. Then South Park makes the most dangerous decision it can possibly make. It hands diplomacy to Cartman.
Yeah, and with Cartman's enormously boys are sure to win.
Token, I swear to God, you call me fat one more time, I'm gonna smack you in the head with this rock.
Not because he's qualified, not because he's smart, but because in this universe, Cartman is good at deals. And the joke hits instantly because everyone knows what that really means. Loud, entitled, confident for no reason, zero shame, zero understanding. That's the resume.
Like, I'm sorry, but when you literally build your brand as free speech crusaders and then immediately act like petty tyrants because you can't handle some jokes from comedians.
Cartman shows up to negotiate with Denmark and immediately insults the room, demands snacks, and starts threatening tariffs over pastries. Actual pastries. He's offended by the portion sizes. He's offended by the accent. He's offended that people expect him to explain himself. And when Denmark responds calmly, with logic, facts, and basic human patience, Cartman takes it as weakness. Not professionalism, weakness.
See? No matter what you say, I'm still standing.
That's the parallel South Park wants you to sit with. Calm looks like surrender to people who only understand domination. And Cartman doesn't negotiate, he postures. He confuses volume for leverage and confidence for competence. He has no idea what he's talking about, but he never slows down long enough to notice. He just keeps going, and that's when it lands. This isn't a random gag. South Park is saying Cartman and Trump are the same personality type, same entitlement, same emotional range, same belief that wanting something loudly enough makes it yours. It's not subtle, it's surgical.
I wanted to leave months ago, but I cannot.
From there, the episode pulls back and gets darker. Satan shows up, not as a villain, not as a tempter, but as someone who is deeply, profoundly tired. This is not cartoon evil, this is HR burnout. Satan explains that even hell doesn't want responsibility for Trump's decisions anymore. That's the joke, and it's brutal. Hell has rules, hell has structure, hell has limits. Earth doesn't.
Because of what's in this box.
Jesus tries to step in, which is where the satire really twists. He's calm, he's trying to mediate, but it doesn't work because Trump treats religion like a prop rental. Something you hold when it's useful and drop when it's inconvenient. There's no reverence, no reflection, just branding, just optics.
The secret none must know, and yet all will soon discover.
South Park flips the expectation completely. Heaven is confused, hell is organized, earth is chaos, and the message cuts deep. Trump isn't corrupting morality, he's making it irrelevant. Nothing matters long enough to hold meaning. Everything is temporary, disposable, and loud. Then comes the moment everyone talks about, the fake PSA, the AI deepfake, Trump wandering naked across ice, talking to himself, contradicting himself every 5 seconds. Huge, tiny, perfect, unfair, winning, cheated. The nudity isn't the joke, the insecurity is. The body is exposed, but the real exposure is mental.
The public argument that the US makes is that Donald Trump makes is that Greenland is essential for US security.
South Park weaponizes AI here on purpose, not to shock, but to say something uncomfortable. This fake version feels closer to the truth than the real one. That's the meta joke. When reality already feels artificial, parody doesn't need to stretch, it just sharpens. And notice what Greenland does during all of this. Nothing. It doesn't argue. It doesn't respond. It doesn't beg. It doesn't care. Greenland exists as silence. silence, unmoved, uninterested, immune. South Park treats it like a force of nature instead of a political object. You can't threaten it. You can't flatter it. You can't bully it. Nature doesn't negotiate with narcissism. That's why Greenland becomes the ultimate rejection. It's the one thing Trump can't intimidate, can't spin, can't pressure. Geography doesn't care how loud you are. Ice doesn't care how confident you feel. There's something humiliating about that. And South Park leans into it hard. That's the episode. Cut to Greenland. Still there. Still silent. Still not for sale. Trump is left talking to no one. Season 29 doesn't end with outrage or chaos. It ends with indifference. And that's the gut punch. Because South Park isn't trying to cancel Trump. It ignores him. It shows what happens when the performance no longer has an audience, when the noise fades, when the illusion collapses.
They need to have control of Greenland. They're in the process of trying to, of the early stages of building something which he calls the Golden Dome. This is a pan-North America anti-missile defense system like Israel's Iron Dome.
The reason this episode hits harder than any news segment is simple. News keeps debating Trump like there's something left to resolve. South Park ends the conversation. Satire succeeds where analysis fails because it exposes emptiness. It doesn't exaggerate, it distills. Greenland becomes shorthand for everything. The obsession, the confusion, the entitlement, the refusal to understand anything that can't be owned. And when you strip it all down, the real joke isn't Greenland. The real joke is that this was ever treated as serious. South Park just held up the mirror and walked away. Greenland survived. Democracy, TBD.